The jungle of Verida was not supposed to be this quiet. Michael Carter knew jungles. He had walked the rainforests of Earth, endured the steaming mangroves of Delta 3, and even trekked through the crystal forests of Marin 4. And in every one of them, life made itself known. Buzzing, croaking, growling, the restless chatter of creatures surviving and hunting. But Verida's jungle was different. It breathed, slowly, patiently, as if the entire forest were one giant lung, inhaling when he stepped forward, exhaling when he stopped. Michael tightened his grip on the pulse rifle slung across his chest. Sweat soaked the collar of his jacket. His HUD flickered with a dozen warnings. Radiation traces, oxygen variants, toxins in the air. None of them were high enough to kill him outright, but the computer seemed just as unsettled as he was. Just one scan and out, he muttered to himself, voice cracking the silence. No heroics, no sightseeing. Drop in, map a sector, and leave before something decides your lunch. But the jungle did not answer. It only seemed to listen. He pushed through a curtain of broad, violet leaves that curled at his touch, as if they disliked being handled. The ground was soft, springy, like walking on muscle tissue rather than soil. When his boot sank too deep, he yanked it free quickly, half expecting the earth itself to close around his leg. Every path looked the same. Worse, every path changed. He marked trees with his plasma cutter, only to find the glowing scars sealed an hour later, healed as if the forest rejected wounds. Trails twisted in ways his compass insisted were impossible. Landmarks melted away when he turned his head. By nightfall of the second day, he realized the truth. Verida's jungle did not want him here. And yet, he woke to laughter. It was light, playful, like the voice of a child chasing fireflies. At first, he thought it was his mind cracking under exhaustion. But when he rose, hand on his rifle, he saw her. She stood barefoot on a branch above him, a slight figure wrapped in vines and woven leaves. Her hair was tangled but shone silver in the alien light, and her eyes reflected the faint bioluminescence of the jungle like twin moons. She looked human, but there was something different. "You're loud," she said simply, tilting her head. "The forest doesn't like loud." Michael froze. "Who the hell are you?" She dropped from the branch without a sound, landing softly in the moss. "Lena, I live here." He stared. "Impossible. This planet was never colonized." She shrugged. "Maybe, but my parents' ship crashed here when I was little. They're gone now, so it's just me. And the jungle." As if on cue, the vines above her rustled, lowering a cluster of glowing fruit to her hand. She plucked one casually and bit into it. Sweet juice ran down her chin. Michael felt a chill. The plants obeyed her. "What do you mean you live here?" he asked. She smiled, wide and secretive. "I mean the jungle knows me, protects me, teaches me. You'll die here without it. You already almost have." He wanted to argue, but his body betrayed him. His canteen was nearly empty. His rations were gone. And yet Lena looked healthy, strong, alive in this death trap of a forest. He lowered his rifle slowly. "All right, Lena, you clearly know your way around. Then maybe you can help me." Her expression grew serious. "Help you do what?" "Survey," he said carefully. "Just learn about this place." The vines around them quivered as if listening. Lena's eyes narrowed. "Be careful what you say. The jungle hears everything, and it doesn't trust strangers." Before he could reply, the ground shook. Something vast was moving in the shadows. Michael raised his weapon instinctively, but Lena didn't flinch. A beast emerged, towering, six-legged, plated with scales like obsidian. Its mouth opened to reveal rows of crystal teeth. Michael aimed, ready to fire. "Don't," Lena said firmly, stepping in front of him. She held out her hand. The monster lowered its head. Its massive snout brushed against her palm like a tame animal greeting its master. Lena whispered something, words Michael didn't understand, and the beast turned, melting back into the jungle without a sound. Michael's pulse hammered. "What the hell was that?" Lena looked at him calmly. "A friend." The jungle sent it to test you. You would have failed if you pulled the trigger. Michael swallowed. His mission had just become something far bigger than scanning a few trees. He had stumbled into a secret, a living forest, a girl raised by it, and he was certain of one thing: others would come. Mercenaries, miners, exploiters, people who wouldn't hesitate to burn everything for profit. And when they did, this jungle would not go quietly. Michael followed Lena deeper into the forest, though the word forest felt wrong. This place wasn't just a collection of trees. It was alive in ways that bent every rule of biology he knew. Branches twisted aside as Lena walked, roots shifted to form steps for her bare feet, and the vines seemed to lean closer, listening to her whispers. For him, though, it was different. The branches slapped against his shoulders, roots snagged at his boots, and thorns seemed to aim for his skin. The jungle tolerated her but rejected him. "How long have you been here?" he asked as they climbed a ridge lined with glowing moss. "All my life, I think," she said softly. "I don't remember Earth. Just stories my parents told me before the jungle took them." He glanced at her sharply. "Took them? You mean they died in the crash?" Lena's eyes flickered with something unreadable. "No. The jungle doesn't like those who try to hurt it. They wanted to cut down trees to build fire, to carve the ground for shelter. The jungle warned them. They didn't listen, so it took them." Michael's stomach tightened. "Took them how?" She didn't answer, only touched the trunk of a nearby tree, stroking it like one might calm a nervous horse. The bark shivered beneath her hand. That night, Lena led him to a hollow shaped like a natural shelter. Bioluminescent fungi glowed along the walls, casting soft blue light. She showed him which fruits were safe to eat and which leaves could be boiled for water. Michael listened carefully, realizing this girl, this child of the jungle, held the key to his survival. But something gnawed at him. He wasn't the only one who would care about this place. His employers back on the station didn't want a survey out of curiosity. They wanted resources: wood, minerals, biotech. They wanted to harvest, not to learn. And when he thought about what Lena had said, how the jungle punished her parents for cutting down trees, he realized what kind of disaster that would cause. On the third day, they found signs that others had already arrived. A clearing lay ahead, the ground scorched, trees ripped apart. Smoke still curled from blackened stumps. Michael froze, his heart dropping. He knew that smell: ionized air, plasma burns. Mercenaries. Lena stood stiff, her small fists clenched. The jungle around them rustled angrily, the sound rising like a distant roar. "They're here," she whispered. "They've come to steal." Michael's throat tightened. He crouched, examining the scorch marks. "They landed a dropship not long ago. Maybe a day." He swallowed hard. "They'll have weapons, Lena, and they won't hesitate to use them." She turned to him, eyes burning. "Then we must stop them." He hesitated. Part of him screamed that this wasn't his fight, that he could still radio the station, call for pickup, walk away. But when he looked at Lena, this strange, fragile, powerful child, and the living forest that seemed to breathe with her every word, he knew the truth. If the mercenaries weren't stopped, this world would be carved to pieces. That night he dreamed. He dreamed the jungle swallowed him whole, roots curling around his limbs, vines pressing into his mouth, whispering in 1,000 voices. He saw cities burning, rivers turned to ash, and Lena standing in the middle of it all, eyes glowing with green fire. When he awoke, the jungle was quiet, too quiet. Lena was gone. He scrambled to his feet, heart hammering. "Lena!" The vines shifted, parting ahead of him. He stumbled forward, following the path they revealed. It led him to the edge of another clearing, this one alive with firelight and laughter. Mercenaries. 6 men and women sat around portable lamps, their armor reflecting the glow. Their guns were stacked against a tree, but he knew they could grab them in seconds. And there, standing in the middle of their camp with her hands bound, was Lena. Michael cursed under his breath. The leader, a broad-shouldered man with a scar running from chin to temple, stood over her, sneering. "So you're the little wild thing that's been living here, huh?" That explains how you bastards survived this nightmare. He reached down and grabbed her chin roughly. You're going to tell us all the jungle's secrets. Which plants kill, which ones heal, and which ones fetch the best price off-world. Lena's eyes met Michael's through the shadows. Calm, steady, almost like she had expected this. Before Michael could think, a vine slipped around his wrist, tugging him gently forward. Another brushed against his ear like a whisper. The jungle wasn't just alive, it was guiding him. And in that moment, he realized Lena wasn't a prisoner at all. She was bait. Michael crouched low in the shadows, the jungle breathing against his back. The mercenaries laughed and jeered, completely unaware of the forest shifting around them. They thought Lena was theirs, a helpless girl caught in their trap. But Michael could see it in her eyes. She was in control. The scarred leader leaned closer, grinning as if he had already won. You'll talk, girl. Everyone talks eventually. If not, well, we've got ways of convincing. Lena tilted her head, her silver hair glowing faintly in the lamplight. You think the jungle will let you leave here alive? That earned a roar of laughter. One of the mercs, a tall woman with a scarred jaw, spit into the dirt. Sweetheart, jungles burn. We've got firepower that'll clear half this continent before breakfast. The forest stirred, restless. Leaves quivered though no wind blew. Michael's pulse quickened. He felt the vines behind him tighten, coiling like muscles ready to strike. He realized then, Lena wasn't bluffing. The jungle really was listening. The leader straightened and drew a knife, holding the blade near Lena's cheek. You'd better start being useful or we'll. The ground shifted. Not a quake, not a rumble shifted. Roots erupted from the soil like living spears, coiling around the mercenaries' boots and legs. They shouted, reaching for their weapons, but the vines snatched the rifles away before fingers could close around them. Michael watched in awe as the camp dissolved into chaos. The firelight sputtered as glowing moss spread across the ground, swallowing their lamps. The jungle roared, not with sound, but with movement, with 1,000 branches twisting, bending, striking. Lena closed her eyes and whispered. The vines around her wrists crumbled to dust, releasing her. She stepped forward, calm as the mercenaries screamed and thrashed. The scarred leader fought hardest, ripping free of a vine long enough to fire a shot into the darkness. The plasma bolt burned a tree trunk, only for the wood to knit itself together instantly, glowing with angry red veins. The tree groaned like a wounded animal and sent a branch whipping across his chest, hurling him to the ground. Michael stumbled forward, rifle raised, but Lena turned and shook her head. Don't. This isn't your fight. It's ours. He froze, the weapon heavy in his hands. Around him, the jungle had come alive in full fury, snaring, striking, crushing. And yet, it wasn't killing. The vines held the mercs, choking their weapons, pulling them into the dirt, but not ending them. The forest seemed to judge, to decide. The leader spat blood, glaring up at Lena. You'll regret this, girl. There'll be more of us. Hundreds more. You think this thing can stop us all? Lena knelt in front of him, her eyes glowing faint green. The jungle is patient. It's older than your ships, older than your weapons, older than your greed. You won't conquer it. It will outlast you. The vines tightened, dragging him down until only his face remained above the soil. His screams turned to muffled shouts as the ground swallowed him whole. The others were pulled back, tangled in roots that held them immobile. Terrified, beaten but alive. The jungle had made its choice. Michael exhaled shakily, lowering his rifle. His hands trembled. He had seen war, he had seen alien predators tear men apart, but never had he seen a forest move like a living god. Lena turned to him. Her expression was calm, almost sad. Now you understand. He stared at her, words sticking in his throat. Finally, he managed, You control it. You are it. She shook her head gently. No, controls itself. I only listen. She placed a hand on his arm. And now it has listened to you, too. That's why you're still alive. He didn't know what to say. Part of him still screamed to finish his mission, to call in his employers, to bring ships and science and soldiers to study this impossible place. But another part, the part that had watched the jungle rise like a tidal wave at Lena's whisper, knew what that would bring. More will come, he said quietly. You can't stop them all. Lena looked out into the glowing trees, her voice steady. Then we'll keep teaching them, until they learn, or until they don't return. Michael knew then he couldn't betray her. He couldn't betray this place. He had stumbled into something sacred, something vast and alive and beyond human greed. At dawn, the mercenaries were gone, swallowed by the jungle's will. Lena stood at the edge of the clearing, light streaming through the canopy. Michael approached her, his pack slung over his shoulder. I'll leave, he said, his voice rough. I'll tell them the jungle's too dangerous, not worth the risk. They'll believe me. They'll stay away. She studied him for a long moment, her gaze piercing. Finally, she nodded. Good. He hesitated. Come with me. You don't have to stay here alone. But she smiled softly, shaking her head. I'm not alone. I never was. She touched the trunk of a great tree beside her, and its branches bent low, wrapping gently around her shoulders like an embrace. This is my family, my world. I belong here. Michael's throat tightened, but he didn't argue. Deep down, he knew she was right. As he walked back through the jungle, the path opened before him. For the first time, the vines didn't claw at his boots, the branches didn't block his way. It was as though the forest accepted his departure. When he reached the ridge where his shuttle waited, he turned back one last time. In the distance, he could see Lena standing among the trees, glowing faintly in the green light. She raised a hand in farewell, and then the jungle swallowed her whole, closing around her as though she had never been there at all. Michael boarded his shuttle in silence. As the engines lifted him from the surface, he whispered to himself, no one will ever believe me, but he didn't care. He had seen the truth. On Verida, humanity wasn't the master. The jungle was, and in the end he realized that was exactly how it should be. The galaxy would move on, greedy and blind. But here, on this forgotten world, a young girl and a living forest would stand together. Guardian and guardian, voice and will. Michael Carter carried the secret with him, and for the first time in his life, he was glad to leave empty-handed. Because he hadn't lost. He had witnessed something no riches could buy. The bond between human and alien life. A bond strong enough to protect an entire world. And that, he knew, was worth more than all the treasure in the stars.